Welcome everyone to the L7C podcast. Today we do have a very special episode for you guys. It's kind of a two-part episode. You guys have been asking for this one. So the duo of the pop culture expert, Chelsea, and the My Hero enthusiast, Andrea, are back together again talking about some astrology. They're both here. How are you two ladies doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Things have been popping off, as you know, Martin. But I'm very excited to be back on a podcast with Chelsea.
Reunited, and it feels so good. I'm good. My allergies have been really bad, so if I sneeze in the middle of this, I'm sorry. I took a Benadryl, so we're thriving out here.
Fair enough. And also, there'll be another episode that you'll hear with the two of them. So they're getting two episodes after being far away from each other for so long. And I don't have any of the notes for this one. I did just get them, but Andrea and Chelsea are just going to be running the ship. So I'm just going to be here asking every questions now and again. The only research I did is, do you guys remember the first episode you guys did, the two of you, and when it was and how long it's been?
I was going to say, wasn't it like 2 years ago? I feel like
that's where I'm at, because that's what I was thinking too. Is like, when did we do the Zodiac sign? I remember sitting in my old apartment, doing it, and I'm pretty sure it had to have been at least 2 years ago, maybe even 3, almost. Like, we might be getting there to 3.
Okay, I have the published. So this is the date that it was published, because this is the only research I did. So obviously, published doesn't mean the same day recorded. This could have been recorded weeks before it actually got published. The day it got published, November 28th, 2022.
All right. Yep. So about 3 years. Yeah.
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 That's weird.
The very first astrology one, man. And then looking at the show notes from that one, for the first time ever, you guys teaming up on a podcast. You're talking about astrology, moon and rising signs. You talk about what plays a role in the sun sign. Talk about all this coming together and make a person chart, and you guys describe them. And and then birth charts and all of that. That was, man. And now, finally, we got the two of you, just the two of you, because you guys have been on episodes with other members and all that, but we haven't just had you two ladies together in almost 3 years.
It's been a minute. That's why.
Time has just flown by. It's wrapping my head around that. All of the things that have changed between then and now is wild.
And that was one of the most. And yeah, I remember that was one of the most listened episodes of that season of the pod for you guys together. So here we are again, and I'm just gonna pass it to you guys. So what are we talking about? The part 2 of this, Andrew. What are we talking about?
So actually, your intro was perfect, because basically the first thing on my notes was like a refresher, just the basic of what are all the signs, in case somebody hasn't listened to the first podcast, is just learning about zodiac signs, or they only know their own. They might have heard some of the other ones, but it's like, Sagittarius, what is that? Is that even real? Did somebody make that up? I feel. So starting off in, I think technically it's the spring of the year. The first zodiac sign is Aries, which moves then into Taurus, then Gemini, like Miss Chelsea.
Hey.
Then Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, like Martin and myself. Sagittarius right after, Capricorn, Aquarius, and then rounding us off at the end is Pisces. We definitely go over in the first podcast kind of the different, the types, the elemental types, they're grouping based on that. But for this podcast, at the time of last recording, which wildly enough, I can't believe it's been 3 years, Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think we tried to dabble, or I at least tried to dabble into trying to explain like fixed versus cardinal signs.
Right.
I definitely did not understand it. And in my research for today, I actually realized there's a third group, but for whatever reason, yes, but people don't really talk about that one very much. Like, it's always, cardinal, fixed. Nobody talks about mutable. And I think part of that, at least from my research, it seems like people have a hard time describing what those are.
Right.
But basically, that was kind of where we wanted to start. Was, I will admit, I did not go back and listen to the both of us over again, Chelsea. So I don't know if I got it wrong, or if maybe I got it right here and there. but just kind of kicking it off of like what exactly, if you want to answer the question of what are the fixed, cardinal, and mutable signs.
I can dive into it a little bit because it's hard to talk about truly / to listen to unless like you have something in front of you, like a whiteboard or like just notes, so that way you can visualize it.
Right.
Because like that's just kind of how my brain works. But essentially, like we as humans, like we're kind of like pre-programmed, if you will, like in our signs and in the way that it transitions. So, for example, like Scorpios, because that's you and Martin, where are my notes? You guys fall under the fixed signs, whereas like I'm a Gemini, so I fall under the mutable. So there is a pattern like between each like Aries, Libra, Taurus, Jesus Christ, I can't speak today. Scorpio, Gemini, Sagittarius, Cancer, Leo, blah, 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 where it follows like essentially like a cardinal sign because that signifies like the beginning of whatever the four quadrants are between like fire, earth, air, and water.
Yes.
And then the fixed is like that sign is just like living in it. And then the mutable marks the transition as you're going into something new. So like a cardinal is very much like you are earth, like you are fire, you are air, you are water. Whereas mutable, like you kind of have the traits of whatever you're transitioning into a little bit. And then depending on where you fall, like you could be a cusp, which means you're literally right on the border. So like, good luck to you. So like that's kind of the way it's broken up. And then even within those, like there's masculine and feminine aspects to it. And like when people are talking about like the masculine and feminine, masculine is essentially like what you are projecting outwards. So that is very much like what is visible within like the signs and like what you are just embodying. Whereas like feminine is like what is projected inwards. So like it's your inner workings, it's how you process it's like who you are at the core, if that makes sense.
Yes, totally. I actually hadn't gotten that far, so that's really good information for me to now understand, because I've heard like masculine, feminine within this space before, but I didn't. It's one of those things where like, okay, mental note, I don't know what that is, but I never went to check up on it.
Right.
But there is a very big in multiple facets of the zodiac and astrology is what's external or perceived outwards, and then what's internal that only you really kind of understand.
Right.
And then a big thing for, I mean, you nailed the cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs. Chelsea, of course you did. The other fun thing to note with the cardinal signs is they actually mark off the beginning of each of the 4 seasons. So like Aries is the beginning of spring, Cancer is the beginning of summer, Libra is the beginning of fall, and Capricorn is the beginning of winter. So each of the cardinal signs kick off, like you said, their quadrant, but each of those quadrants kick off a season. So, and I just found that very interesting, because when I was first looking up the differences and the actual definitions, I hadn't thought that where the signs fall kind of be these terms, but it is. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and like the masculine and feminine, like it definitely I think throws people off, because you at the base level, like that you just think of masculine energy and feminine energy, but it's really just like the way that
very 2025 terms over there.
We love to see it. But it's very much like how you're projecting just inward and outward. I don't know, like it's dorky, but like another way like to think of it is each like the cardinal and then the mutable and then fixed, they also tie in with like masculine and feminine. So like if you're looking at a side-by-side list, Aries and Libra are both cardinal signs, and they both fall under the masculine like energy. Taurus and Scorpio, those are both fixed signs, and they fall into the feminine energy. Gemini and Sagittarius, they are masculine and they fall into the mutable sign. Cancer and Capricorn are feminine and they fall under the cardinal. Leo and Aquarius, they are masculine. They fall under the fixed. And then Virgo and Pisces are feminine and they fall under the mutable. So it's just a pattern. Like if you can look at a puzzle or something that's repetitive, like it really is just a pattern.
Yeah, especially Martin, I don't know if you remember when we looked up your birth chart together and it gave us that big ol' I mean it's the chart, it's the circle with all the different lines and all of that stuff. Kind of learning these terms and learning the languages at which they like actually map and plot that out. That was actually, Chelsea, fun fact, my first time seeing it mapped out that way was looking up Martin's chart, because I guess whoever did mine, the website put it on the table first, and then like the chart was way lower, so I just took a picture of my chart. So then when I did Martin's, it must have been a different site, and it was like, boom, here's the chart, here's the actual circle diagram, and I'm like, oh my god, what does this mean? And then I scroll down, and then it mapped it out a little more plainly for the novice I was to read it. But yeah, definitely seeing all of that on there the first time, if anybody hasn't looked up their birth chart, can be a little intimidating to get that thrown back at you. But it's really easy to break down once you kind of know the terms and what you're looking at.
Oh, for sure. And it's also like everything is up to interpretation. Like that's the fun and beauty of who we are as people, but also the signs. So like Gemini, for example, people often associate it with being like two-faced, or just like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of a vibe, but it's really just like, I think I like balance, and sometimes I can be very outgoing. Other times I can be very much an introvert. Like I have two sides of me, like that I project outwards and inwards. Like, I don't know. It's all about what you take from it and how you kind of roll with it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely, I will appease any of the criticizers or haters out there that feel like, because I get it when, you know, somebody's trying to bring up a valid critique or criticism based on repeated behavioral patterns that are not okay. And somebody's like, oh, you know, well, I'm just a Leo, deal with it.
Right.
That's not necessarily the healthiest thing out there. That's obviously deflective and diminishing of whatever problem they're trying to bring to your attention. Of course, generally speaking, I mean, I'll say stuff like that where it's more so it's already a joke, and you don't really do that when somebody's actually bringing an actual problem up to you. That's never okay. I'm not saying that's okay. But yeah, I mean, to take everything with a grain of salt, because like not everything is fixed, up to your own interpretation. Of course, there's also, I think it's briefly mentioned in our first podcast, the idea of evolved versus unevolved within your signs, of that you've worked past some of your like signs personal struggles per se, but there's always kind of that general, like Chelsea mentioned, for Gemini it's being two-faced, for Scorpio it's being overly I guess sexual, promiscuous. That's not necessarily what it's about, but because that's the perception from the outside, they're going to stick a negative connotation on it and kind of judgment, which is not representative of the full understanding. Because, okay, two-faced, cool, yeah, that's a negative thing. But if you take that negative connotation out, is just having a duality. And most people even just have a duality within themselves, even if it's just external versus internal. Whereas with Gemini, correct me if I'm wrong, Chelsea, you kind of have the duality on both sides where it can be external and internal.
Agreed. Yeah. No, that was really well said. I had a train of thought and I was gone. I'm blaming the Benadryl.
Fair enough. Fair enough. If you just fresh out on this, it's okay.
Lord Jesus. Okay.
Hey, at least you didn't blame it on being a Gemini, all right?
Oh,
Right.
my God.
It's just the Benadryl. I know that.
Oh, I'm sure it'll come back to you. Now I'm going back to, I know I wrote the note because I was supposed to send them to you, Martin.
Okay.
And now I can't even.
Houses.
Yes, the houses. Okay, that was something else that tripped me up.
Right.
When people would talk to, especially the friend of mine that kind of got me into astrology, talking about their like 5th house and their 12th house. And I'm like, what is this? What does this mean? So basically a breakdown, the houses within that wheel. And again, on the visual aspect, I kind of wish I had that prepared so then I could like share a screen and do all that fun stuff. But sorry, guys. On that chart, starting at 9 o'clock and going counterclockwise, which is a little different for us, we start with the houses. So on the only circular chart I have in my phone is actually Martin's. So let me see if I can bring that.
Hold on. The astrology thing, is it?
Yeah.
With the houses, are they like I achieve, I explore? Is that what they are?
They are. Okay, so the first 6 are actually regarding yourself. They're internal. And then the 7th through 12th houses are regarding external factors, relationship, career, values, things of that nature. But I was just, man, I just had it too. Where did I would, of course, block out your place of birth and your date of birth and your time of birth, all that
I just want to
jazz,
see,
Martin.
is this one of the things? Is it that thing? I just randomly did a quick search. Is that one of the?
Yes.
Yeah.
But could you zoom in a little bit more? Because are those the house? Yes. In the inner circle are the houses.
How do we zoom? Oh, this is going to be a pain. All right. I can zoom in. I just have to change the one thing. I just got to move this. But yeah, I can do that. There we go. Look at that. Doing this on the fly.
That's why you're in charge.
Exactly. In the diagram that you have pulled out. Oh, I understand. Okay. That's perfect, actually. So I'm still going to pull up in a little bit the screenshot I have of yours. Again, I'll make sure your information is not actually on there. But on that chart, you'll have your signs and the houses that they represent, all that good stuff. The one that you have pulled up is just a breakdown of the houses. So as we see, we start with house 1 and then go counterclockwise through 12. The first half are all internal. So on my notes that I jotted down, the first house is the house of the self. In my research, I actually noticed that a lot of times your first house, your sign of your first house is actually can correspond with your ascending sign. Chelsea, I don't know if this is true for you. I know it's true for me. So I actually had to Google a little bit more and see if that's always the case, and it's actually not, which I find pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The house of the self, it informs you about your personality. They claim that it influences your physical appearance. I don't know if y'all have seen those videos on Instagram. I'm sure TikTok too. TikTok first and Instagram. Where they'll be like, oh, celebrities, and you can tell that they're Taurus, or you can tell that they're Scorpio, and they keep grouping them together by physical appearance. Their first house is kind of what they're basing that off of. And it's also how you project and present yourself to the outside world, which is also the description I remember for the ascending sign, presenting how you project and present yourself. So to me, that makes sense how your first house and your ascending sign can be the same. Second house is the house of value. Third is the house of communication, how you communicate with others. Fourth house is the house of home and family. It's about your roots and your foundation. Fifth house is the house of pleasure. Focuses on creativity, self-expression, and the pursuit of pleasure. Things like hobbies, games, romance, things that you find joy and fulfillment in.
Mm-hmm.
And your 6th house is the house of health and service. All right. Then going to the external, your 7th house is the house of partnerships. This one in particular, they really, I would really like to reinforce that it's for any type of partnerships, including friendship, platonic relationship, not just romantic.
Mm-hmm.
8th house, house of transformation. 9th house, philosophy, or the house of purpose. 10th is house of career and social status. It's associated with your ambition, success, and your achievement. The 11th house is your house of friendship. Shout out to my friends, Chelsea and Martin. And then 12th house is the house of the unconscious. I've also heard that the 12th house is related to, Chelsea, I don't know if you've heard this, but like death.
I have heard that too.
Right. But from what I found, it's related to our feelings and our fears. And I think that's kind of where the death comes in, is death is something most people at some point fear in life, whether it's the first time you hear about it or when you're nearing your expiration and are suddenly feeling that way. But it's more of the, it's how you deal with your inner turmoil.
Right.
And it oversees karma, dreams, and spiritual growth. So like, yes, it can be like a death to your current self to be, to ascend into your next growth pattern or revelation or things of that nature. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And like, I'm going to jump from astrology to tarot cards real quick.
For sure.
Wow.
We're just gonna pivot
Okay.
I mean, it's all the same. Like, it's not even that much of a jump. Like most my friends that got me into this, I mean, anytime I visit her, generally I ask her to do a reading for me.
Right.
Oh.
One of our one of the people that I work with at work, she's a manager for one of the departments, but she has a stack of tarot cards on her desk. So if you're ever feeling stressed out, like you can go into her office and be like, hey, I need this. And then she'll just pull it out for you. But for death specifically, like you kind of started to dive into it, but it can just signify a change or something unexpectedly like pivoting, if you will. This was like several years ago when we graduated. Capital always did like a senior goodbye fest, essentially. And I sat down and was like, hey, I want my tarot cards read. And she pulled a few different cards. And then one of it was the death card. And I just remember being very tipsy and then just looking at that and being like, excuse me, what do you mean? And she was like, the way that my cards read, it was like I had been working very hard to either achieve something significant to me or something that I thought I wanted. And then the death card essentially meant like that my life was going to pivot and I was going to change and like realize that that wasn't for me in a certain way. And I didn't pay much stock to it. I was just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a year later, I was going to law school, realized I hated it. And I was just like, this isn't for me. And then I think in my head, I'm just like, oh, that one was kind of right in an indirect way that makes no sense whatsoever, but okay. But yeah, death is just a change.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I did not know that story, but it makes total sense because as you were going through it, like that was the first thing that popped in my head was your career shift. And I was like, wait, the fact that you were like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then that clicked. It's just one of those things where if you put stock in it, beautiful. If you don't, that's no skin off our backs. We're not telling you that this is absolutely a real thing that you have to believe in with your whole soul or else.
Right. Like it's just kind of fun to like sit back and think and then put stock where you want and take what you want away from it, you know?
For sure. And like, I mean, and if it's for you, cool. If it's not, even better. Just, don't yuck my yum type deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Martin, I got your chart pulled up. We'll see if the graphics will actually know. No, because I have my blur on. Let me see if I turn that off, if you can see it a little bit. All right, maybe, kind of. I'm not sure. But basically, we have, it's still the inner circle is where the actual houses are. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because we see the lines intersecting, and I'm hoping you guys can see the astrological signs on the edges, because that was something that I noticed on my own chart. With regard to houses, Chelsea, I don't know if yours has this as well, but there can be gaps. Not everybody has the same, or not everybody has like one of each zodiac sign in each house. Like there's 12 zodiac signs, there's 12 houses. Okay, you get one in each. Cool. Most of my signs are actually Scorpio.
Right.
And most, like Martin's, most of them are concentrated into a specific area. So I'm just like, so if I don't have, I think if I remember correctly, I don't think I have anything in the 12th house or the 11th house or something that my friend was talking about. And I'm like, oh my God, is that bad? So I started researching that. And basically, from my research so far, it kind of means that that's not necessarily something that you're going to struggle with. That is kind of something in your life that you're not necessarily going to have to give too much thought to, because you're just it's going to be what it is. And generally speaking, you'll be pretty set and good at it. So like one of their examples was if you don't have a zodiac sign in your first house, you're not going to struggle with, who am I? What am I? You're going to be pretty solid in who you are without much of a struggle, which is kind of cool. So going through your chart, even if you've, had it for a while, like I have, and not actually paid much attention to the houses, going back in and looking at, pulling up this information to see like, okay, are certain things lining up? Have I, already addressed some of the spots where I needed some growth based on my chart? And, what are areas, do you find that actually lines up where you don't have anything, don't have any signs assigned to that house, and it's something that you've never struggled with, haven't found a need to really work through? So that's a fun little fact that I know I was panicking about with so much of my only having basically water signs, Scorpio placements, and then most of my houses being empty. So anybody else with that concern, you're good. It might just mean that you have a lot of your signs wrapped up in particular houses, making it a little bit more spicy. A little extra razzle dazzle, as my friend says.
A little spice.
So for the people listening with the houses, so when you do all the calculations and all that, does it tell you which house is most important to you, or?
So it lays it out in more of a it just kind of lists it out that your, like my placement, even on my table, it had, Sun, Scorpio, and then there was a Roman numeral to represent the house. I just never paid any attention to it. So it'll tell you exactly what the house is for that placement and with that sign. And then when you look at it in that circle, like Martin, you had a few that were empty. You can just tell that it's just blank. Like there's nothing intersecting. There's no sign assigned to that house. So on our ends, when reading it, anything that's blank, you can kind of skip over. Definitely know what it is. But anywhere that's kind of, you have signs assigned to, those are supposed to be your, like, take a look at what this means, kind of how these sign or signs can impact that placement within that house. So like, I'm keeping it simple because I didn't get deep enough. My apologies, everybody, to really go through each of the different signs and how like Aries versus Scorpio could impact your first house. But like, for example, I'm gonna keep it with Gemini. Sorry, Chelsea. I feel like the two I know most about are Gemini and Scorpio in that order. But with the first, within the first house being the self, so like, at the base level, Gemini having duality, if your first house is in, or if Gemini is in your first house, it could mean that you might struggle with a sense of that you feel like you're two different people. Or you aren't sure of who you are truly because, when certain things come around, you present one way versus another. But that can also just be, situational, sociological, all that other fun stuff that comes into play, the real world. And then, yeah, just every sign would impact a house in a different way because each sign is different. There can be general themes for, the fire signs in general, the earth signs in general, air signs in general, water signs in general, but still within each of those categories, each of the signs are different based on their placement within their quadrant, being cardinal, fixed, or mutable.
And
come full circle.
We love to see it. But and you kind of we've talked about the fire, earth, air, and water, but fire signs are kind of like that raw, emotional feelings. Earth signs are more of those material feelings and things. So whether it be their comfort in a certain spot or just the material that they're working with. Air signs are very much of the mind, and then water are feelings. They want to talk about their feelings at all times. So
that we do.
One of the jokes with water specifically, oh, I'm a Cancer, I'm just really emotional, I've got a lot of feelings. But then Leos, for example, they're known for being spirited and very outgoing and just the center of attention, which makes sense because that's their raw energy. That is their spirit as a whole. And then Taurus, and Capricorn specifically, are known for being super stubborn and they're not going to change who they are. And that is their material energy, they're playing into their person. And then Gemini, me, the communication aspect, there's two sides of me, and I can either be very introverted or extroverted. So that's kind of how it works too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So informative.
We're doing good today.
Yeah, we are.
We're doing good. For also the sake of time, then, to keep it going, this honestly is for Chelsea, what was in the notes. Fall prediction for the signs.
So fall prediction or predictions in general are kind of tricky. Just you always hear that joke of oh, the stars are out of alignment, or oh, it must be Mercury
retrograde, yes,
or whatever. And it all of those things play into it. So truly, when I was doing some research, I kind of got sidetracked, and then overwhelmed when I started looking at predictions for the fall. And truly, everyone has a different interpretation for it. There's general overlapping themes, but what I got distracted by was the moons, and then the way astrology plays into astronomy and vice versa. So this weekend, August 23rd, 24th, fun fact, is a black moon, in case you guys didn't realize it. So it's essentially when the moon is between the earth and the sun. So it doesn't make an eclipse. And it's just where you wouldn't see the moon. So it's just the placement of it. So it passes in front of the sun, so it blocks everything. So it's kind of setting up a cool pattern for the next few months with meteor showers and just the next few moons that are coming up. But yeah, I got sidetracked by that, truly. So I don't have anything for predictions.
Yeah, no, because even when Chelsea brought that up as an idea, it's a wonderful thing. And I used to see I was very clocked in to all of the different influencers that were doing the predictions based on your sign and what was going to happen for And then I think I saw a video where one person tried to explain it all, and I was like, whoa, that's too much for me. But honestly, hearing that you got sidetracked about like the different moons, I feel like that could be something we could talk about again later on. Because we just had was it the harvest moon?
Yes.
Yes. And I was actually at the beach with my mom and my aunt, and it was, oh my gosh, we were out there walking on the beach on purpose. We wanted, do the whole moon thing. It was overcast, and then all of a sudden we already finished our walk. We're sitting down, and I'm like, why is there like a little like red look? Is that a boat out there?
Nope.
And it was like, nope, that's the moon. I was like, oh shoot. So it was just starting to come over the horizon. So we started our walk before the moon did. But just I've always heard the names. I've always, was like, oh, this and that moon's coming, or we're gonna have a pink moon soon, and just kind of leaving that be where it is. Within astrology and astronomy, of course, the moon is really important.
Yeah.
I did read something fairly recently, being made up of mostly water signs for me. that being around water and at the beach is especially soothing. I've always heard people like the beach, and okay, cool. I've always loved the beach. But it seemed to me that other people didn't really feel that the connection to it the way that I did. And I just thought I was being weird, and maybe I am, but like it made a little bit more sense to me, like reading, and I was like, oh, maybe, maybe that could be part of the reason why. So like, I think that would be fun to explore at another time, for sure.
For sure. And especially like the gravitational pull and like science and all of that good stuff too. Like it's interesting. And then the other cool thing with like the black moon specifically, it's rare. Like it only happens every 20 something months.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's frequent enough, but rare enough too. Like you're not going to
still, yeah.
But it's a good time for like your rituals or spells or other workings are considered to be like more powerful and effective, because sometimes you hear like, oh, make sure you're recharging your crystals, like make sure you're writing down things that you want to happen soon. And then other times like people are steering you not to because of the moon or because of whatever is happening, because it could actually have the reverse effect. So if you do have like anything that you're working towards or wanting to manifest, now's kind of the time to do it.
And that rolls right into the last part of the notes. Martin was like, how to manifest what you want. Chelsea, I don't do it really in the sense of what people I think traditionally do within this sphere on manifesting things. So if you want to talk about that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So manifesting is just when you're kind of willing or thinking something into existence. And that kind of looks different for everyone based on like your goals and what you're looking to achieve. But it's kind of like, I go back to like sports of like you're picturing your team winning because like that's the ultimate goal. So like that in itself is kind of a form of manifestation. But it kind of plays into like the 7 universal laws and just the way of how your signs play into it. But basically the core thing is like you have to believe it in order to receive it.
Right.
Of a vibe. Like you can't just be like, I believe that I'm going to meet the love of my life soon. Like you have to kind of put yourself out there and really kind of focus on yourself in order to make that happen. And it's important to not lose sight of what you're looking for, because some things like you can't leave things to chance. Like or manifesting a promotion at work, for example, like you have to do the work to get the promotion. Like you have to put your best foot forward and impress your boss and overachieve. And by doing that, that's how you meet your goal of getting that promotion. So it's really just kind of like
being a little bit more spiritual with your goals rather than like practical about it, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like on my end that you're definitely bringing in the spiritual in addition to the practicality. Because like you mentioned, you can't just will it or wish it.
Right.
Which, as you were saying that, all I could think about was Princess and the Frog. Disney plug for the day. Maybe we'll have another one in half an hour. We'll see. But yeah, that was what I was thinking of, was like, I remember sitting in the back of our family van on the long trips, and I'd see like the first star of the night, what is that saying? Starlight, star bright, the first star I see tonight.
Yeah.
I wish I may, I wish I might. Yeah, make my wish come true tonight. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember doing that. And of course, I'm wishing for things that are wholly impossible at the age of, 6.
Right.
But yeah, of course, like, so your comment about doing a lot of the thinking and visualization, I think that's where most of my manifestation comes through. I lack in the visualization department, but I try. But I do know there are people that definitely like write down their goals, write down their specific desires. Like I remember seeing a few TikToks about like, oh, I was manifesting my husband or my wife, generally a husband, but and it was like stating exactly what they were looking for, not necessarily features wise, but kind, outgoing, outdoorsy. And like you mentioned, they did the follow-up of, they started going to a outdoor enthusiast group, or they put themselves out there to maybe have the ability to actually meet this person.
Right. Like you're opening yourself up to the possibility of whatever you're manifesting to come true.
Yes.
And like it's the moon and the seasons kind of tie into how you manifest and when you should be doing it versus like when you probably shouldn't. And like there's a bunch of different rituals that people can do. I like to do them on occasion because it's kind of like a reflective time for me. I'm like, I just kind of just chill and not like have my phone on or TV or whatever. So like it's kind of a way of detaching myself a little bit from like the hustle and bustle. But if just like that is cheesy, that is I'm not going to be doing that. Like some people are list people, write it down and then you're putting it out there. Like you're focusing on that. But I stand by this like firmly with pretty much everything that I do in life. Like you can't just wish for something to happen. You have to make it happen. It's kind of like when people are complaining about the same things over and over again. Like I'm going to listen to you complain as long as you're doing something about it. But if you're not doing something about it, like it gets old quick.
Fair enough. Any other things you guys want to say on the part 2 of a long time coming, the reunion pod?
Just that it was great to do it again. I'm actually surprised we went as far over time as we did. I'm kind of glad. But I actually was going to ask you, Martin, if you had any questions about anything you've heard from us, because like you mentioned, you didn't do too much research. So did any of this information shock you? Is any of it confusing? Are you just like taking it all in and loving the information? How is it as the listener?
None of it was really personally confusing because I did listen to the whole first episode before doing this. But I would think that for a part 3, because I don't think it was addressed in this one, obviously, or in part 1, is addressing naysayers, basically saying this stuff is trash. I think that'd be the best part 3 part, because obviously some people think this is absolute garbage. It doesn't make sense and yada yada yada. So I think that would be the natural progression of this series, addressing the haters.
We could do that.
I can. I just like, do we want to waste our energy on that though?
Right. It's one of those things, like you said earlier, don't yuck my yum. Like, I don't know if you believe, not to get controversial, but like if you believe in God, like
and I don't, I'm not going to make you feel like shit for having your belief.
Right. I mean, and that's where my brain went as well, was like, I mean, I don't feel like astronomy is as, I don't want to say as strong because that's not the right word, but that's all I'm coming up with right now. Like, it's not as deeply entrenched with a lot of people the same way like religion is, especially culturally across multiple cultures. But it's still a belief. It's a framework. It can be a belief system. People can hold both. It's not necessarily one or the other.
Right.
But anybody who has, you know, those naysaying feelings, contradictions when it comes to having faith religiously, all you can say is you have to have faith, and if you don't have faith, then this is just not for you. And if you choose not to have faith, that's wonderful. Like we're not trying to say that you have to get on board with you have to look up your birth chart. You have to follow this to a T. It's basically your Bible. Like, no, like if you want to get into this with us, cool. If you don't,
that's cool.
We got other podcasts you can listen to if you want.
Right. Like, take it with a grain of salt, or use that salt to protect yourself. Like, you know,
for real. Salt circle around your house.
Throw it over your left shoulder or good luck or whatever. But yeah, no, the naysay, like, everyone has their opinions, and that's fine.
Wow, so diplomatic there. I'm just saying I would say the naysayers with that, though, different from the other things that you mentioned, do tie into a whole bunch of the other topics that have been spoken on this podcast before, more from a specific thing of like, since obviously people who've listened to you both know now that you guys are girls, that any girl who's super into this stuff is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and you shouldn't approach them on a 10-foot pole, which then relates to the dating podcast, which then it all just circles around and it's all connected. That's the only reason I brought it up.
That's fair. But I mean, they say the same thing about girls with colored hair. They'll say I mean, women say the same thing about anybody who says they're an alpha male. Like it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
It all goes back around.
Yeah.
It really does.
But with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. Chelsea and Andrea returning to make a pod together. You won't have to wait almost 3 years for them to do it again. There will be another one out. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it depends on when they come out, but you'll have 2 episodes of their reunion. With that being said, L7C signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.